What is a day on the moon like? Reveal from Artemis Astronauts 2. Latest images of Orion Spacecraft. Welcome back to the Elon Musk Signal channel. Have you ever experienced the nightmare of forgetting something crucial before a significant exam? Can you imagine the dire situation for astronauts heading to the moon if they forget something essential? To prevent any mishap that could jeopardize the mission's success, the Artemis 2 crew has conducted a simulation of a day on the moon for their mission scheduled for 2025. Let's follow this exciting simulation journey and explore the upcoming challenging journey of the Artemis 2 mission. The Artemis 2 mission, marking the first pivotal step in sending astronauts to the moon, is part of the ambitious Artemis program. Delayed by 9 months, Artemis 2 is now scheduled for September 2025. Beyond the United States, the Artemis program aims for a grander goal, establishing a settlement at the lunar South Pole to leverage the potential abundant water resources there. Led by NASA, the Artemis program has garnered participation from over 30 countries, including Canada. Participating countries will adhere to the Artemis Accords, establishing rules for peaceful lunar exploration and, in some cases, providing equipment for missions. The 4 astronauts of Artemis 2 include NASA Commander Reed Wiseman, NASA pilot Victor Glover, who will be the first person of color to depart low Earth orbit. LEO, NASA mission specialist Christina Koch, the first woman to fly beyond LEO, and Canadian Space Agency mission specialist Jeremy Hansen, the first non-American astronaut to venture beyond LEO. This will be the first astronaut team to use the Orion spacecraft. Although Orion has conducted 2 previous unmanned flights, they were both uncrewed missions and lacked life support systems. Those 2 uncrewed flights were the Artemis 1 mission to lunar orbit at the end of 2022 and a short flight to Earth orbit in 2014. Now, you can marvel at the spacecraft that will return humans to the moon for the first time in half a century. NASA has just released the latest images of the Orion spacecraft, set to orbit the moon on the Artemis 2 mission. Currently, the interior of Orion's cockpit is being finalized at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Technical teams are also installing rear protective panels and outer insulation layers, while preparing for vacuum testing for Orion in the upcoming spring, according to statements from NASA officials on X, the former social media platform Twitter. On Tuesday, February 13. The Orion spacecraft, NASA's next human-carrying vehicle to the moon, has undergone a significant, small leap, before taking astronauts on the mission. Starting on Wednesday, April 10, Orion was placed in a vacuum chamber at NASA's Kennedy Space Center to test its resilience to electromagnetic interference and electromagnetic compatibility. The purpose of the test is to ensure the spacecraft can function normally in environments with electromagnetic fields, including those generated by the spacecraft itself and those present in outer space, before undertaking the upcoming crucial mission. Their spacecraft, currently housed at the Neil A. Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building of Kennedy Space Center, KSC, is being tested in a historically significant test chamber. This test chamber was previously used to test life support systems and the environment on the Command Module and Lunar Module in the Apollo program, which carried 9 crews to the moon from 1968 to 1972, according to NASA officials. KSC has multiple different vacuum chambers. Orion is being tested in the Western Chamber, which has been upgraded to test the spacecraft in a vacuum environment simulating altitudes of up to 250,000 feet. The 4 astronauts of Artemis 2 have undergone a challenging training day inside a simulated Orion spacecraft at NASA's Johnson Space Center. The rehearsal also involved backup astronaut Jenny Gibbons from the Canadian Space Agency, CSA. The Orion simulation accurately recreates the cramped quarters the astronauts will face in their upcoming mission. Simulated gravity makes everything more difficult, forcing them to coordinate smoothly and move flexibly to complete tasks. Sharing about the training session, the astronauts expressed appreciation for its realism and value. It's an opportunity for them to hone teamwork skills, adapt to confined environments, and handle unexpected situations in the upcoming moon mission. The training took place at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in early May, ahead of the scheduled launch of Boeing's Starliner spacecraft. Jeremy Hansen, a mission specialist from the Canadian Space Agency, CSA, stated, one of the things we want to accomplish is to gather everything that will be on the spacecraft and start planning how to manage them. The training team has done a fantastic job. They set up a full-day simulation. We didn't simulate the launch process, but once in orbit, we simulated retrieving equipment, checking the water system, installing the toilet, removing seats, and asking, where will we stow the space suits? We went through that entire sequence, even down to unpacking sleeping bags and going to sleep. Commander Reed Wiseman of NASA explained that simulations inside the spacecraft are never easy. It's very small, cramped, you're always kneeling and crawling by hand. You can bump your head, and similar trivial things like that. Despite being time-consuming, integrated simulations like this are extremely valuable. In this case, having all members fully engaged helped identify a small but crucial design change for the Orion spacecraft. A cable box will be relocated after astronauts found themselves entangled by long cables throughout the day. NASA pilot Victor Glover said that integrated training experiences like Artemis II are necessary to help the crew get a sense of the actual size of the workspace. This is crucial for them to make the most of every centimeter on the Orion spacecraft on the first, likely busy and lengthy, day. While the astronauts will perform some exercises together, they will sometimes have to do individual tasks. The launch of Artemis II has been delayed by a year to September 2025 to address some technical issues to ensure safety, including examining heat shield issues that the Orion spacecraft encountered during the uncrewed Artemis I test flight around the Moon at the end of 2022. NASA's Office of Inspector General, IG, issued a report stating that these issues pose significant risks to the safety of Artemis II. The report noted that NASA identified over 100 areas on Orion's heat shield experiencing more erosion than expected during the fiery re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. Glover emphasized that astronauts are always kept informed, safety is always prioritized over the preset schedule. And this issue has been actively addressed for over 18 months. The crew of Artemis II will undertake a journey to orbit the Moon before returning to Earth. The mission is expected to last about 10 days and is scheduled to launch in September 2025. To accomplish the lunar orbit mission, Artemis II will utilize the Massive Space Launch System, SLS, rocket and the Orion spacecraft. Throughout the journey, astronauts and ground control teams will gather data on the operations of the Orion spacecraft and the crew. This data will help assess the readiness of the Artemis program for the mission to land humans on the lunar surface. The participation of CSA astronauts is due to Canada's commitment to providing the Canadarm3, a robotic arm that will serve NASA's Gateway space station. In return, CSA will receive participation slots for astronauts and opportunities for scientific research on some future Artemis missions, including Artemis II. What are your expectations for this mission? Leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on interesting technology and electric vehicle news. Goodbye and see you in the next video.